Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Pro Fitness panel on building a sport and fitness brand. So if you're a business owner, a gym owner, a personal trainer, or you're just interested in brand and strategy and marketing, make sure to stick around because we've got an incredible amount of experience here with us on stage. I've got no doubt you're going to get a huge amount out of this. So as you've just been introduced, joining me on stage here, starting with Marc Diaper in the middle. So Marc is the CEO of Gymbox, not to be confused with Fitbox around the corner. Gymbox has 10 locations across central London. They did over 100 million in revenue last year alone. Next to him, on the left, we have Paul Barber. Paul is the Deputy Chairman and CEO of Brighton and Hove Albion Football Club. He was awarded Premier League CEO of the Year for 2023, and he was also awarded an OBE for services to football in that same year. Last but not least, one of our own, Andy Smith. Andy is the founder of Pro Fitness Academy, one of the country's leading providers in health and fitness qualifications. Andy also happens to be the second best looking person on the ownership team at Pro Fitness Academy.
I knew he was going to say that.
So before we get into the discussion around branding, can each of you just introduce a little bit about how you got into the positions that you're in? Marc, if we start with you, what was your journey to the CEO of Gymbox?
Yeah, thanks for the invite as well, appreciate it. I've been in the fitness industry for 22 years. So I started as a personal trainer, sports massage therapist, and then worked my way through. Been with Gymbox for 14 years now. So started as a sales director, marketing, operations, took over as MD in 2014 and CEO in 2016.
Thank you. And then Paul, can we go to you next?
Yeah, I've spent 27 years now in professional football. Didn't make it as a footballer myself, but studied marketing, worked in a number of different businesses before joining the Football Association in the late 1990s, working with the England team, and then later with Tottenham Hotspur before moving to North America, and then back to Brighton 12 years ago.
Fantastic. And then finally, Andy.
Yeah, so I founded Pro Fitness Academy about 7 years ago now when I came out of university having done a strength conditioning degree, and I wanted to work within the industry, and having applied for a few commercial gyms, found out I had to do a personal training diploma to actually work on the gym floor, which was somewhat frustrating having spent over £40,000 on a degree. So went off and did a 10-day intensive course with a provider that I shall not name. But I learned a couple of things, and what I learned was that there was 30 people on this course paying over £3,000 per person, and that there was definitely a potential business model there. What I also learned was that, there was a lot of theory on that course that wasn't practically useful for working on the gym floor, and there was also a lack of practical advice that definitely was useful. So, having did that, I did a bit of research in how to developing my own qualifications, did my teaching qualifications, assessing qualifications, quality assurance qualifications, started putting together our own syllabuses and structures and schemes of work, and built Pro Fitness Academy, and that's what brings us here today.
Perfect, thank you. Marc, if I could just ask you to leave the mic drops till the end, that would be appreciated. So on to the discussion around branding. Marc, we'll come to you first. Gymbox has become known for its unique marketing and branding strategies. Often they're very counter to what the rest of the fitness industry is doing. How did this strategy come about, and why do you think it's been so successful?
Yeah, so probably not even fitness related, it's probably just business related in general. So our strategy from day one in 2003 was to be disruptive. So if you're going to create a brand and its core is disruption, you need to make sure you're living and breathing that. So we created a brand onion, we call it, back in 2003, and that onion, you imagine the outer layers of an onion, all of the words that affect your tone of voice as a brand, what you stand for as a brand. You get to the inner core of the brand, and then you come up with one word which describes you, and our word came up as challenger. So everything we do in our business, from social media to PR to anything we do, classes, we do classes from contortion through to CrossFit, right? So holistic to sadistic. So everything we do came from a DNA of being disruptive and a challenger brand. Right. You have to be really, really consistent with that. So if that is your USP, you have to then live and breathe that constantly with everything you do. So in a world where things are evolving so quickly, if you're standing still, you're going backwards. So we're constantly challenging ourselves to make sure we've got the right brand tone of voice. The other thing with that then is probably marketing and brand, see them slightly separately. So marketing will pull people into your business, okay? So it's the advertising, the marketing. The brand will keep people, so retention, and it will create your fan base. So we look at those two things very differently now. So drive new leads into the business through marketing, and then maintain them through brand. Brand also includes your people, right? And it's probably the biggest thing you've got, because you can have the most fantastic brand reputation out there from what you do in club, how it works. But if your team don't live and breathe your brand values and your mission and vision, then it just doesn't work.
Right. I think you said the word retention there. I think I saw you had a campaign where you were giving out beers after a fitness class.
Yeah. So we try and be we create a stir by creating disruption. So for example, we did a class with Beavertown. So it was the only class you could do which you leave with a 6-pack, and you literally left with a 6-pack at the end of the class. So we've done hundreds of brand partnerships from that perspective. Yeah, sign you up, absolutely. So yeah, look, the idea is we want to create fitness fun. You know, our mission is to be the antidote to boring gyms, okay? And our vision is to make working out as much fun as going out. And let's be honest, most gyms you go to are quite vanilla, right? Walk in, wooden floors, white walls, low music levels. We have live bands in the boxing ring. We have a live DJ 3-4 nights a week, and it's to create that environment where people want to go and work out.
Right. So obviously, when you're going counter to the industry, there's an element of risk there, right? In terms of backlash, how do you weigh up what's appropriate, what's right for the brand, and what's not?
So our philosophy is ask for forgiveness, not permission. So we've messed up. I won't swear as children around, but we messed up a lot of times. We've got in trouble. Advertising standards, been cancelled a few times nearly. So we push it, you know, if you look at what we did many years ago, 2003, 4, 5, up to probably even 7, 8 years ago, the stuff we did then we couldn't do now, we'd be cancelled. So you have to evolve as you go through to create that disruption. So now we're more disruptive, not offensive. But initially we had to create that kind of, I mean, you see brands do it all the time. So brands are out there creating disruption. You go, you know, Cereal do it with the cereals at the moment, right? Protein cereals. They're being very disruptive in their approach to try and grab market share differently.
Okay, so ask for forgiveness, not permission.
Not permission, yeah. Just get on and do it.
My mum's in the audience. I think she's heard that one before. Andy, we'll come to you next. As an education provider, Pro Fitness sit in a slightly different position to many businesses when it comes to branding. What is the importance of brand success to Pro Fitness Academy, and what do we do differently?
Yeah, I think brand is obviously very important. What I would say is I don't see brand personally as a logo or a slogan or a saying, or even particularly a product or service. I see it as a result. I see it as a reputation. I see it as an identity. And what we identify as at Pro Fitness Academy is a professional provider in health and fitness qualifications. Each of our students, undergraduates or postgraduates, are a symbol of our success or our failure as an organisation, and therefore we want to be associated with winners. We want to be associated with students who are out there being proactive and being productive in their pursuit of prosperity, and therefore we can associate with their success. So that's one side of things. We also work in corporate wellness, where we look at how we can improve the productivity and wellness of a workforce, where actually we see brands slightly differently. We become the brand behind the brand. Like everyone's heard of Microsoft, of Apple, of Brighton Hove Albion Football Club, but they might not have heard of the businesses that do their accounts, the businesses that do their legal work, or the companies that do their corporate wellness. And we want to be one of those companies, and therefore in that regard it's about us working behind the curtain, working hard to improve their productivity so that business can stand center stage and be as good as they can possibly be. And that comes from building relationships, and those relationships are built with companies that have a similar philosophy as us, and that comes back down to our brand values, which is being professional, being accountable, and being reputable.
Right, and you mentioned our students earlier there. We might have some new PTs in the audience today. what kind of things are we teaching our students about brand as they step into the industry? What should a new personal trainer be focused on?
I think with students, it's about being true to yourself. I mean, it's a very broad and diverse industry. People come to a personal trainer looking for a broad variety of different things, whether that's aesthetic adaptation, athletic development, or general health and wellness. And therefore each trainer will have a strength in maybe one of their fields, and rather than trying to be a jack of all trades, just focusing in on what you're good at, being true to that, and doing the best that you possibly can.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, there's a lot of trainers out there in the industry, but the one thing that those other trainers can't be is yourself. And that is ultimately what people will buy into when it comes to personal training. Paul, let's come to you next. Brighton and Hove Albion built one of the reputations as being one of the best run clubs in the country. How much does the role of branding play into the success of the club and the way you run the organisation?
Yeah, it's very important. I mean, the Premier League is full of very big names, very big football clubs that have developed their reputations over 100 years or more. In Brighton's case, we haven't played at the top level for many years of our 26 years existence. So we've had to work hard to build our reputation on and off the field. Obviously, in a professional football club, performance on the pitch helps your brand significantly, but the way you behave off the pitch is also important. So we try and live our values. We have very strong values in the club, the way we operate, the way we treat our staff, the way we treat our suppliers, the way we treat our fans. We play hard, but we play fair. So we respect regulations, we respect rules. That enhances your brand as a football club. And increasingly with an international squad, our reputation across the world has grown very rapidly thanks to being in the Premier League for the last 8 years. So it is a very, very significant part of who we are and how we generate our income, and obviously helps us to attract the best players as well.
You mentioned the club's values there. I've done a little bit of research, so I've got your values right here in front of me. So they're treat people well, exceed expectations, aim high, never give up, act with integrity, and make it special. What are the potential risks of a company neglecting their core values in brand development?
Well, I think the first risk is that you damage your overall reputation. So that potentially impacts your sponsors. It impacts your ability to attract players and staff. It attracts your ability, I think, to be credible within your own community. And I think this community is a very significant and diverse community where they expect us to live our values. They expect us to treat people well. They expect us to try and aim high and exceed expectations. So we get held to account on those values every single day. And they're not things that are just written on a wall. They're things that we live. They're our behaviours. That's the way we treat each other, the way we treat our suppliers. So there's a significant risk if you get those things wrong that you start to lack credibility. You start to damage the value of your overall business.
When you hire someone, presumably you're looking for those core values in those individuals. When you hire someone and it goes wrong and they don't have those core values, how do you establish that and how do you make the decision to move on quickly?
I think the first thing is that human beings will always make mistakes. So you can't act harshly on someone for breaking one of the club's values unless it's a significant act of dishonesty or assault on another member of staff or whatever. So you're trying to educate all the time. You're trying to instill the values through a process of training and development, showing the right behaviours at the senior level, acting in the right way, doing the right things, encouraging players to set an example by doing the right thing. But you've also got to understand that people are people. People will make mistakes, and you need to allow people a chance to grow after they've made a mistake. And that's not necessarily true in every organisation. Some organisations can be quite harsh, can be quite unforgiving. I think in a football club, we rely on humans. We don't make iPhones, we don't make cars. We are a performance industry and then part of the entertainment industry where we rely on human beings to perform, by human beings, watching human beings, supported by human beings. So, we're not perfect. None of us are perfect.
Thank you, Paul. Marc, we'll come back to you. We spoke earlier about the uniqueness and success of Gymbox's branding. I know you've also worked as an advisor in the past with other gyms before joining Gymbox. What were the types of things that you would look for in your clientele, and how did you help them with branding?
So we always stripped it back. I always strip it back to the start. So, you know, we talk about branding. Brand is the most important thing in my view. So every touch point, the look, the feel, the energy you give. So I'll always start with brand. So what's the vision? What's the mission for the business? Strip it back. And actually, in our business, for example, I didn't create the vision mission. So we got our marketing director into a room, a copywriter into a room. We got reception teams, sales teams, cleaners, you name it, they're in the room. And I said to them, I'm going to leave you to it, come up with a mission, a vision, and 5 brand values we can all live by. So that's what I do with any new business I go into. So our vision, as I said earlier, was to make working out as much fun as going out. Our mission is to be the antidote to boring gym. So everything we do has to be anti-boring. Okay, from the classes we create to the marketing we do. And then the 5 brand values were: get stuck in, no matter where you are, what level you're at in the business, me included. You get stuck in every day. If that's supporting a peer, if that's cleaning the changing room, whatever it might be, you get stuck in. D-Bad was the second one. I won't list kids around, but don't be, it rhymes with sick, is brand number 2. And it's basically, you've all worked in a business where there's that one person that's got low energy or negative. We don't have those in our business. We move them, we try and convert them back to our fill, but if not, we move them on very quickly. Sweat the details. Again, sweating the details is super important when it comes from a brand perspective. Have a giggle, let's make working fun. We work in the fitness industry, it should be fun going to work. And the last one is anything goes. And anything goes has been our sort of ideology from day one, which was no matter who you are, what background you're from, come to work and be yourself, because we've recruited you for who you are. So I do the same thing with any business I go into. So once we've established the values, I'll then go in and look at the brand onion. So what do we want to be? What's our tone of voice? What keywords describe us? Once you've got all of that and your keyword, you can then establish what your sort of campaigns will be moving forward. So it's an hour's conversation, that question, by the way. But reality is, I have a playbook for what I do going into a new business, where I start methodically. Does everyone align with these key brand values? If not, we try and get them on board, and if not, it happens, they move on, and we bring other people in.
Right, and those brand values, are they something that you set out and they stay the same, or as the gym grows in stature and reputation, how should the brand evolve with them?
Yeah, you're right. So we constantly look at our values. So they haven't changed now for 5 years, okay? Because we constantly reassess them and make sure they're still valid. Our kind of sign off to all of our campaigns is still anything goes. It has been since 2003. We thought about changing that numerous times through agencies, but we've stuck to those core values. Now, if those core values, the world changes, people's expectations of business change, how you act, what you do change, then of course we'd revisit those. But we've stuck to those values from day one, and they're still in there.
Okay, so if you set it outright to start with, you shouldn't have to change it.
Yeah, look, if you've got a business here, and your business might just be you, I'd still say have a mission, have a vision, have some values. Doesn't matter if you're on your own, it's absolutely fine, because you may build something that people need to buy into. We've got 200 employees now, we've got about 150 personal trainers, about 300 instructors. I meet every single employee on their first day in the business. So we onboard every Wednesday at 10 a.m. I do half an hour of every new starter to go through mission, vision and values to make sure that everyone's fully buying into where the business is going.
Right, okay, amazing. Andy, we've got Paul on stage here with us today. Brighton and Hove Albion have built strong partnerships with brands such as American Express to increase their global reach. Building strong partnerships has become a key component of what we're trying to do with Pro Fitness Academy to build our brand. How do you go about deciding what types of organisations to work with, and why is it important to build strong partnerships?
Yeah, I think that comes back down to kind of briefly what I mentioned earlier in relation to brand values, and our values are those 3 things that I mentioned earlier about being professional, being accountable and being reputable, and therefore the organisations that we associate with need to have similar outlooks and approaches. We've made some interesting partnerships over the last 6 months for sure that we're very proud of. One being Brighton Hove Albion Football Club, actually, which is one that we're going to be delivering vocational qualifications to help support some of the youth teams through transitional phases into other career avenues, as in if their dreams of becoming footballers doesn't work out. But really, we want to associate with people, with professional outlets that are reputable, and that comes with having those philosophies in place with our own.
Right. I mean, there might be some personal trainers sort of sitting here thinking that building partnerships is just for larger companies. Is that the case? And if not, what are some partnerships that a PT might want to create with their own businesses?
Yeah, I mean, as a personal trainer, I think it's being about being true to yourself again. As a PT, you haven't got to make partnerships with huge organisations. There's a lot of PTs that come into the industry want to be a jack of all trades, and therefore they're giving nutritional advice, they're giving injury rehabilitation advice or athletic advice without a nutrition qualification, without a strength conditioning qualification, without any injury rehabilitation background, and therefore creating a network of people that you can trust, people that you believe in is massively important. I know when I started working on the gym floor, rather than chasing every penny that's available by saying I can give you rehab advice when I wasn't qualified to do so, was about making sure I had a team of people, like a physiotherapist I could trust, a nutritionist that I could trust to refer people to. And I think that comes back in gold further down the line when they say they trust you too, and therefore those referrals come full circle.
Right, and we've got a gym just down the road on New Church Road, and we did a partnership with the Back Care Clinic along the road, and all of a sudden they're sending all of their clients that have been rehabilitated down to our gym, and those are the kind of partnerships that a personal trainer could build to help grow their business. Paul, we'll come back to you. The football world is changing rapidly at the minute with the new restrictions placed on clubs by financial fair play. How do you see the role of branding changing as clubs need to increase their fan bases to gain a competitive advantage?
Well, the brand becomes even more important because we need to raise even more revenues. The more money we can raise, the more money we can put on the pitch, the better our chances of success, the more money that brings in, and so it becomes a virtuous circle. So once again, you come back to the brand, its quality, its consistency, how it's managed, how you avoid damaging it, because again, if you damage it, you're going to create a vicious circle rather than a virtuous circle. But ultimately in a football club, winning is really important, and if you can win football matches, create attention, with that attention you get a lot of interest from partners. The bigger the partner, the bigger the value, the more revenue you can generate, you create that virtuous circle. So from our point of view, we're lucky to work with American Express, with Nike, with Heineken, with British Airways. But those big brands, those multinational global brands want to work with us because of the brand reputation that we have, not just on the pitch but off the pitch as well. So we work very hard at protecting that, managing it, and ultimately developing it.
Right, and players have become brands themselves now. You're about to head off to Tokyo, Japan on pre-season tour. Brighton & Hove Albion's global brand has grown massively off of the signings of players like Matoma. How much consideration does the club put into a player's reputation, their background, when they're considering signing them?
Well, the first and most important thing is what they can do on the pitch, obviously. We're looking at their technical attributes as the first priority. But actually bringing good people into the club is just as important. The last thing you want in the dressing room is a bad character, because bad characters typically breed bad characters, and ultimately that will damage the brand. So a lot of work goes into understanding the profile of the player. Does he drink? Does he smoke? Does he gamble? Does he party? Does he spend too much time on other activities other than focusing on being an athlete? And if that is the answer to those things are yes, even in a small amount, then we tread very carefully, because ultimately that will undermine performance, and if performance is undermined, the brand's undermined, and if the brand's undermined, you're starting to damage your opportunity on the field and off the field. So from our point of view, profiling of athletes is just as important. Their reputation, the way they live their lives, is just as important as our staff.
Right, okay. Any tips on signings coming in?
No.
Marc, we'll come back to you. You've been in the fitness industry for a long time, across many different job roles now. What's changed since you got into the fitness industry in terms of marketing, and where do you see the industry moving forward?
Yeah, the biggest one is when we started the business, it was billboards and leaflets. That was all there were. So we do big disruptive campaigns, London Underground stations, big billboards, and then be around the stations leafleting, sort of guerrilla marketing, stunts. Everything's digital now. everything's digital. So we still have a little bit above the line. So above the line marketing would be brand awareness, but everything now is switched to paid for media. So I've got somebody now working for me full time on TikTok and influencers, and the whole world's just changed from that perspective. So you've had to increase your teams to cover all of these different areas and do them well, of course. Yeah. So I'd say that's the biggest step change, has been where you spend your money and how you spend your money.
How might a smaller gym that can't afford to grow their teams like that, how might they manage something like that?
So two things. One is know your demographic. So if you are a PT in the Brighton area, how far are you willing to travel to go and get business? How far do you think people might travel to you? Reality is probably no more than a 20-minute walk is where people will travel. So how can you create a coverage in that area? Get out yourself and do leaflets across the whole of that sort of circumference yourself. Paid for media is actually really cost effective. So to do an advert on Facebook or Instagram or on TikTok is really, really cost effective. So you can spend £150 and get a really good reach on social media. Be very niche in your approach. Don't go for everyone. Hit a target market. So if you're personal training in Brighton, I'd say a good market would be that 35 to 45 crowd. So be very specific in terms of your approach to who you want to go after, and that will limit the amount you spend.
Great, thanks Mark. Andy, similar question to you. Our business has changed a lot during the pandemic. The online education space boomed. What's changed since then, and where do you see the online education space going?
Yeah, obviously the pandemic period was a challenging time for everyone, and with businesses there was definite winners and definite losers. For us as an education provider, we were certainly a winner. I think lots of people were exploring different avenues, different career opportunities, and health and wellness and psychology was certainly at the forefront of that. And therefore people open to the idea of improving their mental and physical health worked in our favour for people potentially becoming personal trainers. So what I realised within that period is that the online education was prevalent, and it was very prosperous. However, post-pandemic and certainly now, things have started to alter. Things have certainly changed. Actually, having the face-to-face element, having the community and camaraderie that's built with a physical presence. We have a centre of excellence where students come in to be kept accountable with their learning, and they 100% benefit from that. We are in the health and fitness industries, and stereotypically it doesn't necessarily appeal to some people that are maybe more academic, and therefore with those vocational practices, the practical element is very, very important, and therefore having a physical fitness facility and having a education space for people to come in to mingle and meet other like-minded individuals is very important, and that helps us not only crack the whip to make sure they're moving in the right direction and working towards that certification stage, but also makes the experience more enjoyable.
Right, I think it's something that you're seeing in the fitness space as well in general. During the pandemic there was a big shift towards online coaching, but these days people are looking for that in-person approach and that connection. Right, we'll wrap it up there, guys. A big round of applause for Paul, Mark and Andy for joining us today. If you are interested in becoming a personal trainer, or if you already are a personal trainer and need to do some CPD courses, do come and visit us at the Pro Fitness Academy tent, and we'll be happy to help you out. Thank you, everyone.